Hola, bienvenidos. Today we're going to be talking about your lección 14, which is your first lesson in gramática, grammar. We're going to be talking about sustantivos, adjetivos y artículos. Again, we're going to be talking about our grammar lessons, about your nouns, the adjectives and articles. Make sure that you follow the lesson thoroughly so you understand what you need to do, and the next couple of activities from your workbook and your book. Now, número 1, sustantivos y adjetivos. We're going to start with letra A. Now, like in English, in Spanish we have nouns. The name of a person, a place, or a thing, that's a noun. Felipe, Carlos, María, Ana, Miguel, a person. A place, Brownsville, Texas, Mexico, Cuba, Buenos Aires, Madrid, España. A thing, el libro, el cuaderno, el lápiz, la clase, el curso. Those are considered nouns. The only big difference is that whether in English we don't have a gender, in Spanish every noun has a gender, either masculine for masculino or male, or feminine for femenino or female. Now almost, that's your keyword, almost. All the nouns that ends with an O are considered masculine. And almost all the nouns that ends with an A are considered feminine. And you have an example right here. El muchacho, la muchacha. Now remember this key word, almost. Because in the lesson we're going to see that there's, as for now, only one exception that you have to remember. Only as for now, one. Now let's move on to your letra B. Like in English, where nouns also have a number, in Spanish they do too. Singular, which you know that it's for one, and plural for more than one. We have an example, el muchacho, los muchachos, la muchacha, las muchachas. Now, something that you need to remember is that every time that you have a noun ending with an O or an A, in order to make it plural, you're going to have to add an S at the end. Muchacho, muchachos. Muchacha, muchachas. Now remember about that exception that I told you at the beginning, that almost, that is your letra C, your letter C. Now, note, when the noun ends with an A, that means with an E, you have to learn whether the noun is masculino or femenino, whether it's masculine or feminine. And these are the examples that I'm giving you. El café, los cafés, la clase, las clases. Now your book is giving you a new one, el café, which means the coffee or the color brown, los cafés, the coffees or the brown colors. Now la clase, the class, las clases, the classes. Now you know for sure that clase is la because we have been repeating it over and over and over again. But something that you need to remember is whether that noun ends with an A, you have to memorize if they're masculino or femenino. We're going to have a couple of those throughout the year, and I'm going to tell you what to use. Either it's el or la. And also the same thing as the previous one. Remember that you have to add an S at the end of the noun ending in E to make it plural. El café, los cafés. La clase, las clases. Letra D. Letter D. Now nouns, they also have to agree with the adjective, like they do in English. They're going to have to do it also in Spanish. An adjective acts like a mirror. Why? Because it uses the description of the noun to match. Adjectives must agree with the noun in gender, whether they're masculino or femenino, and in number, whether they're singular or plural. We're going to be discussing three types of adjectives. Let's start with the first one. Adjectives that ends in an O. When the noun is masculine and singular, that means masculine and only one, the adjective has to be masculine and singular too. That means masculine and only one. El muchacho serio. Everything has to match the noun and the adjective. Now, when the noun is feminine and singular, the adjective has to be feminine and singular too. La muchacha seria. Muchacha seria. Everything has to match accordingly to the noun. The adjective acts as a reflection of the noun, so they have to match what they're talking about. Let's move on to the second type of adjectives. Now, remember the same thing. When the noun is plural, the adjective has to be plural too. Los muchachos serios, las muchachas serias. In order to make that adjective plural, you have to add an S at the end whenever they're ending an O or an A. Serio, serios. Seria, serias. To make the adjective plural. Remember, the adjective is a description of the noun. A big difference between Spanish and in English is that in Spanish, the adjective goes after the noun. In English, it goes before. We say the big class. In Spanish, we say la clase grande. We say the tall girl. In Spanish, we say la muchacha alta. Notice how the noun goes backwards. The noun goes first, and then the adjective goes second. That's for Spanish. And remember, again, the adjective describes the noun. Now, we're going to be discussing the adjectives that ends with an A. The only thing that you have to remember is that they have two forms, either singular or plural, but they don't have any gender. That means that you're going to be using that same adjective that ends with an A to describe both a masculine noun and a female noun. And you have those examples here. El muchacho inteligente, los muchachos inteligentes. La muchacha inteligente, las muchachas inteligentes. And the same thing, like I told you, adjectives are like mirrors. They have to match the noun they're describing. If they're describing a plural noun, there's something that you have to remember. You have to add an S at the end of the adjective ending in an A to make it plural. From inteligente to inteligentes. If they're talking about more than one muchacho, in this case, los muchachos. Letra F. Now, the last ones that you have to worry about are the adjectives ending in a consonant. When you have a consonant, is that you have all the rest of the letters that are not the vocales, that are not the vowels. And you have only two forms, either they're singular or plural. Again, no gender. Now your book in the next couple of actividades is going to be giving you a couple of words that you might not have learned from me, but if you look at them closely, it's because they're going to mean something similar in English. In this case, you have an example. La muchacha popular, the popular girl. Las muchachas populares, the popular girls. El curso fácil, los cursos fáciles. Now notice how popular ends with a consonant, fácil ends with a consonant too. Again, if you remember, like I told you, the adjectives, they have to be mirrors. They have to reflect the noun they're describing. And whenever you have an adjective ending with a consonant, you have to add an ES at the end to make it plural. From popular to populares. Notice the addition of the ES. From fácil to fáciles. Again, that addition of the ES. Now, in order to describe a group of people, this is something that you're going to be doing in your book and throughout the workbook many times. Again, you have to remember that the noun, in this case they're going to be a name of peoples, have to match the adjective, and vice versa. Now, when you have a group of only boys, the adjective and the noun, they have to match each other. In this case, you have an example. José y Juan son alumnos buenos. Everything that you use in that sentence is for the masculine. Now, when you have a group of girls, like in the second example, María y Teresa son alumnas buenas, the adjective and the noun have to be only for femenino. Why? Because María y Teresa, they're girls. We don't say alumnos, we say alumnas. In this case, we don't say buenos, we say buenas. The adjective and the noun has to match. So, when you have a group of only boys, you're going to use descriptions according to the masculine. When you have a group of only girls, you're going to use a description of only feminine. Now, note that you're going to be using the masculine form when you're describing a group that consists of boys and girls. And that is the last example that I have for you. José, it's a muchacho. Teresa, it's a muchacha. So in this case, we're all going to be using those masculine adjectives and nouns. José y Teresa son alumnos buenos. Only when it's a mixed group. Remember that. If it's a group of only boys, everything's going to be masculino. If it's a group of only girls, everything is going to be femenino. If it's a group of male and female, masculino y femenino, you'll have to use the masculine form to do those descriptions. Now let's move on to the second part of your grammar lessons. Now we're going to be discussing the articles, los artículos. In Spanish as in English, we have two types of articles. Definite articles and indefinite articles. They're called definite articles because you're sure at what you are defining. They're called indefinite articles because you're unsure, and that's your keyword, that you are unsure of what you're pointing at. Definite articles and indefinite articles. Your letra B. Now the in English is considered your only definite article. In Spanish you have two. The definite article is either el or la. You may use el with masculine nouns and la with feminine nouns. El muchacho, el amigo, el curso. La muchacha, la amiga, la clase. Muchacho, amigo, and curso, they're masculino. How? Because if you remember, almost all the nouns that ends with an O are gonna be masculinos. Muchacha, amiga, and escuela are femeninos. Why? Because almost all the nouns that ends with an A are gonna be femenino. That's why we're gonna be using la, and on the previous case, we're gonna be using el. Now let's move on to your letra B1. Note that in the plural, remember that plural means more than one, el becomes los, la becomes las. Los muchachos, los amigos, los cursos. Las muchachas, las amigas, las escuela. The boys, the friends, the classes. The girl, the female friends, and the schools. Los and las are also going to mean the. And this is a chart that can help you out. Remember that el muchacho is for the masculine, la muchacha is for the feminine. Now for the masculine, definite articles, only for the. You have el when it's one, los when it's more than one, for plural. For the feminine, you have la when it's one, las when it's more than one, when it's plural. All these four words means the. Now let's move on to your letra C. A, N, and some. They're called, in English, indefinite articles. Why? Because like I told you at the beginning, you're unsure of what you're pointing at. In Spanish, we're going to have four indefinite articles again. Un muchacho, un amigo, unos muchachos, unos amigos. A boy, a friend, some boys, some friends. You're not sure what you're talking about. Una muchacha, una amiga, unas muchachas, unas amigas. A girl, a friend, some girls, some female friends. Un, una, unos, and unas, they all mean a, an, and some, depending on the case. Unos muchachos are masculino, unas muchachas are femenino. And again, I have a chart for you that you can use to fill it out. Remember, a, an, and some are gonna mean un, or unos, una, or unas. We're gonna be using un for a masculine singular. We're gonna be using unos for masculine plural. We're gonna be using una for a feminine singular. We're gonna be using unas for feminine plural, depending what is the noun. This is all for your lesson número 14. If you have any questions, remember what we talked about. We talk about the nouns, which are a person, place, or thing. We also talk about the adjectives, which are like mirrors. They have to match the noun they're describing. A main rule between the English and the Spanish is that in English, the adjective goes before the noun. In Spanish, it goes backwards. Remember, we don't say the big class, we say la clase es grande. Again, backwards. And lastly, we talk about the articles. Like in English, we have two types in Spanish, definite and indefinite. For the definite, we have the. The in Spanish is el, la, los, or las, depending the case. For the indefinite, in English we have a, an, and some. In Spanish, we're going to have un, una, unos, or unas, depending the case of the noun they're describing. If you have any questions, just go back on the video so you can understand how to use them. Gracias, hasta luego, adiós.